Hello YouTube, my very first video, and it can be considered a review, but to start off I wanted to go ahead and do a versus video where I take two games and I'm going to compare them. I'm going to do a review kind of on each of them and compare which one got the better score. However, this is a very special video because this is my favorite game of 2011 and I have two nominees here, and some of you might boo them, and I did not actually get Skyrim, so that probably affect my thoughts here. Sadly, I haven't gotten it yet, so I definitely plan to go get that, but these are the games I was able to play, and they are my nominees. Now, I don't like them on my list. So, first off, I have Batman Arkham City. Obviously, this would be a nominee for somebody who played games in 2011. Awesome game. My other one is Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. These two are really just two completely different games, but I played both of them, and they were both really awesome games, so I decided these are my nominees, and we're going to review them. And with my reviews, I'm going to go ahead and just outline a whole bunch of different things about the games and compare, and then we will see which one of the two actually wins out between each category. So, let's get started. And the first category is the story of the game. There are different ways people do stories of the games. The way I'm going to be looking at this is, how does the story progress through the game? Does it progress well? It's not a lot of choppy moments, and the story actually makes sense, and it's like reading a book, you know, if the story's good or bad. And the second thing is, do I actually care? Like, when I'm playing the game, do I care about the story? Do I care about what happens? That's what I'm looking at when I'm looking at the story for each game. So what should we start off with? Let's go ahead and start off with Batman Arkham City. Alright, so the story on this game is a little complicated, and it's also not all given to you right off the bat. And there's a lot of elements too. It's a really complicated story. The first thing is, all the inmates of Arkham have been transferred to a large section of the city, Arkham City, which is just like a free just block of city for all the criminals to just run amok. And at the head of this is Dr. Hugo Strange. So obviously Batman goes in to investigate, but Bruce Wayne, his alter ego, actually gets put into Arkham City, and then Batman is now in Arkham City when he changes back to Batman, and so he has to go around stopping all kinds of stuff from happening. I'm not going to ruin too much, but no, I guess I would have to talk about the story, but I'm not going to go into full detail. That'd take too long. But you do a whole bunch of missions, and you stop pretty much most of the Batman enemies that you can think of, and it's a really cool story, and it has a lot of elements to it. But the main story is stopping Hugo Strange and his like master plan to rid the city of criminals, and you also have to stop Joker from actually killing you. And it ends so awesome. The ending was great. Story, I'm going to give it out of 5 points, what I felt. Actually, the story on this game does get a 5. It's an awesome story. It's original and doesn't really take too much from other Batman stories, you know, as you would think they would. I can't really think of anything that's that much like it. And I actually do care about like what happens. And then the ending was just like a big blow too. Like, it's awesome, but it's kind of heavy too. So yeah, it's definitely a cool ending and perfect story for this game. So no problems there. That's the Batman Arkham City story. Then we're going to talk about the story for Zelda. Yes, talking about stories for Nintendo games is probably one of the most difficult things game reviewers can do, but I gotta say, Skyward Sword and Zelda games in general usually have better stories than other games tend to, say, Mario Brothers. So the Zelda game pretty much does keep to the cliche a little bit. Obviously you're Link and you have to go through dungeons and all kinds of stuff to go find Zelda. They do change it up a little bit though. If those of you who have not played this did not know, this is yet another prequel. This is supposedly before everything. This is the first game, so I guess I can chew on that since I've been doing that. So it works. The story just kind of ties up all the loose ends of the story for the Zelda series and shows how everything kind of began. For the story, I gotta say, I really was into this one. I really was. I actually cared about everything that happened. And I would sit hours on end just playing this, just to see what would happen next in the story, not just to play the game, but just to see, you know, what happened to the characters. And I gotta say, I really did like the story in this one. There isn't any dialogue, which does kind of take away from the game, but I didn't really notice it too much, and that's not really a problem to me. A lot of people are like freaking out about that because, you know, here we are almost moving on to the next generation consoles after these, and they still have no dialogue, but honestly doesn't bother me all too much. I don't mind reading here and there, and you know, if they got bad voice actors, they'd ruin the game, so I don't think they took that chance with that, and it doesn't really bother me too much. But so, you know, people say that's a problem with the whole story because it doesn't carry very well because of that. I don't think so. I think it does just fine. So what score should I give this? Well, I don't know. It is a bit cliched, which is the one problem, which means it's not as original as Batman was. At the same time, though, I did actually care more about what was happening here than I did in Batman until I got to the end of Batman. But this one, the whole story really engulfed me. So it's really difficult for me to decide which one of these two I actually like better. For Zelda Skyward Sword, I'll also go to 5, just because it was a very engulfing story. I actually did care, and you know, people aren't going to agree, but nobody really, you know, not everybody's going to agree on the same opinion. That was mine. So which one should I choose? Which story should I choose? I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go with Batman on this one. So Batman wins that round. For story, just because it's more original and actually did really care by the end. It didn't engulf me as much as Zelda did throughout the whole game, but by the end it was engulfing enough to where I really enjoyed it, and the originality of it is really what gets this one. So Batman wins the story category. So next category obviously would have to be graphics for the games, and I think you already know who's going to win this one. We'll go ahead and just get that out of the way. Batman Arkham City wins this one. Why? Well, it's not fair, honestly, but at the top of the cases. That's why. One's on Wii and one is on Xbox. Xbox One wins every time. Only because the Wii has such little capabilities when it comes to graphics. And is that this game's fault? No. They did the best that they could with the graphics that they were able to make. So, I mean, Batman wins this one, honestly. It's an incredible looking game. The cutscenes are just astonishing, especially if you see like the very first clip, like the very first cutscene. That one's almost realistic. That's how good these graphics are. This one, for the Wii, are probably one of the best looking games in my opinion. A lot of people did not like the cell shading that they did with the game, but I think it kind of, if it didn't have that, you'd be able to see a lot of the flaws that the Wii has that otherwise you kind of don't notice, because this one's really colorful and bright, and it looks really good for the Wii. It looks as best as it can for the Wii, I believe. But sadly, the Wii can't pull out graphics over these systems. So I gave Arkham City this one. So yeah, that wins again.